Hey everybody, how's it going? Marcos Villegas for Fight Up TV, being joined here with Abel Sanchez on our, I guess, untitled podcast. Marcos and Abel react to the crazy world of boxing and the happenings in it. But hey, it's been a while since I've checked in with you, Abel. I know you're very busy getting back in the mix of training. You have your guy, from what I've heard, in a fight with Zurdo Ramirez. We don't know the date yet, right? Or the venue yet.
It's they're talking about it's in Southern California, but it'll be somewhere around the end of March, March 30th, maybe.
All right, all right. How's your guy looking?
Very good. We're sparring, so it's a matter of just getting ready for the opponent. You know, it's something that he's done 28 times as a pro already, so it's not something that's new. So it's just a matter of getting back into the swing of things. He has been away from me for probably about 2 years because of my retirement and because of COVID and because of other issues. But we're starting to get back into it.
All right. Can you say publicly who the opponent is?
Alberto Zurdo Ramirez.
There you go. There you go. You got a big challenge ahead of you guys, but just knowing how you prepare your guys, he'll be more than ready for Zurdo. Though that's a good fight. That's gonna be an exciting fight. You told me to watch tape on him, and it's very, very interesting given what I feel, and I think I've told this to a few people. Zurdo moving up in weight, I feel like he gives up a lot of advantages that he had at at the 168 and 175 limit. Now in this new weight class, primarily, his speed and his punch is the other big thing. But once that gets announced, we'll do a full breakdown of that, Abel. But just because it's on the top of mind, Teofimo Lopez last Thursday in a, I don't want to say controversial, but speaking of people, press side and fans, one, people weren't happy with the fight because of how it was fought. And two, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, Abel, a lot of people did not think that Teofimo Lopez won that fight against Jamaine Ortiz. What'd you think?
I thought one of the scores was out of line.
Yeah, that
That
117
was
one, right?
Yeah, that was out of line. Uh, but I felt that Teofimo lost. I don't think the other guy did enough to take it from him. He never really engaged. He never, I mean, you can't just slap and run and expect to win a fight. Teofimo did the pressing. Teofimo landed some significant punches. Yes, he got hit a couple times, but they weren't significant. And I think the judges have to look at that, the intent and um, the method and how they were landed. It was I'm not gonna say it was a boring fight because everybody has their own style, but as we've discussed in the past, Teofimo unfortunately has got all these issues outside the ring that doesn't allow him to be, in my opinion, 1,000% prepared for any opponent. The relationship between he and his coach maybe is they have stopped teaching and learning along the way. They're in the gym, but maybe they're not progressing as they should be.
Yeah, I could see as to why the fans felt Ortiz won the fight. But when you're looking at through the microscope of a judge that's judging round by round, they saw, and this is what and this is what, just from what I know, from what I've learned from judging and the WBC seminars that I've taken, and then me doing the scoring that I did for a time at Fox. They probably saw Ortiz as the guy moving around, and they didn't see him as being effective in his moving around, as in Teo was forcing him to move around. He wasn't causing Teo to come after him and making Teo pay for coming after him. And then when you look at the punch stats, the power punches landed, which are the effective punches on their criteria. An effective punch is a damaging punch. You got to ask yourself, well, if you look at the whole 12 rounds of the fight, who's the one that scored the power punches, the damaging punches? It's going to be Teofimo.
Yeah, well, I disagree with you as far as the effective fight because he did very effectively run very well. He did not he did not engage, and you're right. The judges have to look at effective punching, ring generalship, all those things that they have to take into consideration. He didn't do enough to give them the choice of, okay, this guy or this guy. He just didn't do enough in enough rounds to do that. But like I said, the one judge was, in my opinion, was out of line. It was a 1 or 2 point fight, 3 point fight maybe, but not more than that.
Yeah, I think the official scorecards showed it was man, let me see if I could
15-13, 15-13,
yeah,
17-11.
15-13. So that's a 2 point fight.
Yeah.
Two rounds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
looking at the scorecards there ringside, all three judges gave Teo the last 3 rounds. And ultimately that won him the fight. And I know some people had mentioned like, hey, if Ortiz, Jamaine would have pressed those last 3 rounds, he would have eked out a draw or a win.
Really, they gave him the last 3 rounds.
Yeah, they get Teofimo the last 3 rounds.
Yeah, I didn't. I was watching another program that was more exciting to watch. So
Oh
I was
no,
going
hey,
back and
what,
forth.
what were you watching? What were you watching? What'd you put on?
I forget now. Maybe 2.5 Men or something like that.
Oh,
But
no.
anyway, it was more exciting than what I was seeing in front of me. So I can't comment on the last 3 rounds as far as, because I didn't see them completely. But even before the last 3 rounds, the rounds that I did see, I didn't see Ortiz doing enough. And it's not, I'm not one of those that says you have to take it away from the champion. No, you have to fight to be able to take it for yourself. And he just didn't do enough for me.
Yeah, and I also saw a thing like some people reacted online saying like, hey, it's boxing, hit and not get hit. Coming to the defense of Jamaine Ortiz, like you guys call it running, but that's boxing. Where do you side
true.
on that on that argument, Abel?
That's not true. It is boxing, but you know what? Defense doesn't win in any sport. Defense doesn't win games or boxing matches. Offense wins games and in boxing matches. So yeah, he had a great defense. He was a great track meet, but in order to win a fight, you're gonna have to be offensive. And in order to be offensive, you got to stop and do what you got to do, not just slap and run. And he didn't do enough of, okay, say Ray Leonard when he fought Hagler, he did a lot of movement, but he stood his ground and did his 3 or 4 punch combination and landed them and then moved away. And I'm not gonna say he ran, but he moved to another spot. Ortiz didn't do that. Ortiz, as he's running, he's throwing punches, or as he's moving, he's throwing punches. Those are not effective punches.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the judges don't see jabs as effective punches, though that's a little nuanced thing too, because some guys have, power punching jabs. Gennady is one of them. Beterbiev is one of them. But I try to explain to someone. It's funny. Someone in the sauna when I was at the gym maybe 2 days ago was like, "Yo, bro, like, why didn't they give it to Ortiz? Like, explain this to me. Like, how is it that Floyd did the same thing and he would win rounds, but Ortiz
No, he
wouldn't?"
didn't. No. Floyd was more effective with his shots.
Yeah.
He would do a little roll and throw 2, 3 punches that landed, not just how would I say, just barely landed. No, they landed. And then he would move to another spot and do defense or grab you. But he did throw his 2 or 3 punch combinations that did land with effectiveness. Ortiz didn't. Ortiz, I don't think ever. Oh, and I shouldn't say never. I think it was 2 or 3 shots where maybe he snapped his head back because he surprised him. But other than that, it was like just tapping him, just touching him, and those are not effective punches. A jab is a jab, but a jab has got to land.
Yeah. So when that person in the gym mentioned the Floyd example, I told him like, no, like Floyd made these guys pay for coming in, and he controlled them. He set up traps. That's being a ring general. He wanted them in these places, and that wasn't the case for Ortiz. Ortiz was literally just moving away from Teofimo. Teofimo was the one that was dictating where he would go.
Aggressive. He was aggressive. Okay. And when people fought Floyd, their aggression was punished.
There we go.
Teo's aggression wasn't punished.
Yep. And that plays such a big role in how the judge see you being effective when you have that game plan. But I do agree, if Ortiz let his hands go a little bit more, he probably would have gotten some of those close rounds, and we could have seen a different scorecard. But a lot of people also online saying like, hey, the one consistent thing about Teofimo is he's inconsistent. That they're starting to make an example like maybe he doesn't get up for the big names, and he struggles with the names that they're not that big. This guy, Sandor Martin and others. But when it's really on the line, like Lomachenko, Josh Taylor, he takes it up a notch, takes it up a different level.
It's difficult to fight. It's difficult to judge him on a fighter like this, an opponent like this. He obviously showed that he tried to be aggressive. He showed good stamina, good conditioning, because he was able to follow this guy for the 12 rounds and not really tire out. But it's difficult to look good against a guy like this. You can't. I wouldn't judge him on this fight. But I've said in the past, though, what my concerns are with his career. But I wouldn't judge him on this fight. I'd give him a 10 for effort, and maybe a 7 or an 8 for accomplishing his goal that he had in this fight. But he tried.
You know, the one thing though that I will say is that out of this whole bunch of people in his division, Teo's division, you know, the Haneys, the Ryans, Sabriel, all those guys, I feel like Teo is one of the most naturally gifted athletically compared to all of those guys in terms of what he can do and his reflexes as well. Given that and knowing how talented Teo is, a lot of people haven't taken this serious, but spending time with Teo, I feel he is serious. And speaking with his dad, this call out of Terrence Crawford, do you like it for him, Abel? Do you think it's the right direction? Like, regardless of what happens in the fight, you know, Teo will look good given his talent.
Being athletic is not the same as being boxing athletic. He may be a good basketball player, he may be a good football player, maybe a decent boxer because he's athletic. Terrence Crawford is a skilled technician in the boxing match. He may not be able to play basketball as good as Teo, but there's a difference. You can be athletic and not be effective in the boxing game. I don't think that fight with Crawford is a good fight for him. First of all, Crawford is head and shoulders above all the people in his division right now, in my opinion. But where does he go from here? If nobody else wants to fight him, then yeah, he moves up. I don't know. Maybe you would know if he had any issues with the weight. If you didn't have issues with the weight, why are you talking about 147 pounds? Handle your business at 140. You have 4 or 5 guys at 140 there that are chomping at the bit to fight somebody. So why move up to 147 if you're not having issues?
Yeah, you know, I asked him that, like, well, why are you calling out Crawford? It seems so, like, you know, left field. And yeah, it's true. Like, there's so many matchups there. And from what I remember, I got to look at the interview that I had with Teofimo. But he said, why not? You know, this is the game about challenging yourself. Why not? People think it can't be done. People said the same thing about me challenging Lomachenko, and I beat him. Why not? I can beat this guy. I believe in myself.
So is he insulting his people in his division by saying there's no matchup for him there?
No, I don't think he meant it that way. I think he meant it like
Okay.
this is the biggest challenge for him.
Sure, but it's so far out of. If he didn't have challenges at 140, I can understand that. But he's got challenges at 140. He's got guys that want to fight him. He's got it's just a matter of the numbers would be different, obviously, because he's fighting Crawford. But it's a matter of cleaning out your division and moving up. Most of the guys that move up do that first. You know, they don't skip some of the guys that are in division that they're worthy, because they are. It's not like there's not nobody that's worthy. There's 3 or 4 guys that are worthy. They've done their thing at that weight.
How does that fight look, Abel? Just
Crawford and
top of your head, yeah.
Crawford.
Off the top of your head.
Crawford wins the decision. Crawford wins the decision or stops him late. Crawford is he's an excellent boxer. He'll switch on him. He'll do things that will confuse Teo, because Teo hasn't developed, I don't think, in the manner that Crawford has.
Yeah, let's see what happens. We're in the I wouldn't say the age, but like it is the norm now for like a fighter that's like 2 weight classes above another fighter for someone to go up and meet him. Like it's happened now. I wouldn't say it's normal, but we're starting to see it a little bit more than before.
We've talked about before what I see the difference in boxing today and say 20 years ago. That's the difference. It's about money. It's a money grab. And so that's all it is. There's no reason for him to move it up to 47, but that's the biggest payday, obviously, because that's the man right now at 47. But it's a money grab. Why not do what was done in the past and clean out your division and then move on to another one?
Well, to give him credit though, he technically has done that already. 35, he beat Lomachenko, who was the number one, became undisputed, or the whole mess. But he was the lineal, and then he went and fought Josh Taylor, who was the lineal, and he beat him. Yes, there was other champions there because of the belt situation, but he's already beaten two of the best, two of the lineal number one.
Has he unified the title at any weight?
Well, when the win with Lomachenko, yeah.
Has he unified the title at 140?
No, but
did Crawford unify the title at any weight?
He became undisputed 140, undisputed 147. But you can make the argument Teofimo did the same thing, though.
You can make the argument, but listen, how many other guys were there that were champions also? With Crawford, there was no other champions. He's eliminated everybody, and they could make a claim that they were champs. Right now he's got the WBA champ, which is Matias. Get him out of the way. Get him out of the way. He's got Devin Haney. What title does he hold?
WBC.
If Devin Haney gets past Ryan Martin, then Ryan Martin.
You're going
Ryan
way
Garcia.
back. That was Tom's fight.
Ryan Garcia. I used to work with him. In fact, Ryan Garcia. If he can get rid of Ryan Garcia, then why not Devin Haney and Teo, and then move up to fight Crawford? Then he's eliminated the guys in that division.
Yeah. No. Speaking of Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, their fight is official. It's happening on April the 20th. We did a poll, and obviously, I think if you were to ask any boxing insider, hey, who's favored to win this fight, you would say Devin because of how technically skilled he is. But Abel, what's interesting to you about this fight?
Ryan's punching power.
Yeah.
And the fact that I've watched a Devin Haney fight where he has to stumble back to his corner. If he gets tagged,
it's two fights.
Yeah, Ryan can crack. Ryan can crack. He may not be as skilled. He's not as skilled as Devin, but it's a 12-round fight. And if he lands a shot, Devin is nowhere near the Gervonta Davis fighter that fought Ryan. Gervonta Davis is much more of a tactician, more of a killer, let's just say that looks for opportunities and capitalizes on them. Devin doesn't have the punching power that Gervonta Davis has, and Ryan does. So to me, it's not a 50-50 fight, but I would give the edge to Devin, but he's got a live guy in front of him.
Okay. Yeah, Devin at this point has had a heck of a run, hell of a resume up to this point as well. The biggest win being against Lomachenko, but it's a little disputed that win was, but nonetheless, he got the job done against Vasily Lomachenko at 135 pounds. We're seeing a Ryan Garcia now at 140 with no weight rehydration issues, no nothing. It's a full 140 a weight where he looks strong. You mentioned the power, but realistically, how will what's the key in this fight, Abel? Putting on your trainer brain on it and really seeing the fight for what it is.
The key is Devin fighting his fight and keeping Ryan from initiating anything, keeping him one step behind. If he can do that, then he's got a chance of winning the decision. If he can't, if he allows Ryan to get into a rhythm and allows Ryan to land some punches and allows Ryan to throw, because Ryan will be just as fast or faster than, in my opinion, than Devin, and he's a bigger puncher. So if he allows Ryan to get into his rhythm and allows Ryan to get close and get into a 2 or 3 punch combination, one of them may land, and all it takes is one to get you hurt. And Ryan's not afraid to go crazy when he throws his shots. He's not one of those guys. He hurts you and then he pulls back. He's going to go on you and maybe get knocked down himself if he gets caught with a shot. But he will be on Devin. So Devin's got to keep his cool, and Devin's got to make sure that his game plan is followed throughout the 12 rounds. If he decides to make it a fight, then it's a difficult fight for him.
Yeah. They're so familiar with each other. They fought 6 times in the amateurs, and I would have, that. Yeah, that stays with you as a fighter. Like you're familiar with this guy, and you know what they are, right?
Yes, but Ryan is a different fighter today.
Well, they're both a lot better.
Yeah, power-wise.
Yeah, that's true.
Power-wise. Who's he training with right now? Derek,
yeah.
Okay, so he'll have that class group around him and learning, and I think that's going to help him. That's what I was worried about Ryan before, I shouldn't say worried, but I just didn't think that he was progressing. I loved it when he went to Eddie because again he had a nucleus of a lot of very good fighters. He has a nucleus of a lot of very good fighters with Derek too. So it's like Munguia going to Freddy's. He has a nucleus of a lot of good fighters. He improves. So I think that if Garcia is paying attention and watching how things are done at that level, at the professional level, at that level that he's at, then I think he's gonna show a big improvement.
Yeah, and the other thing too, people were mentioning like, man, there's a lot at stake for Ryan, and obviously there is. He wants to be world champion. This is his chance to be a world
Both
champion.
guys.
What was that?
For both guys. I mean, this fight for Devin is a marquee fight for because then I think that raises him above all those questions that you had before and that everybody's had. If he's able to knock this guy out or really handle him, then I think it puts a big feather in his cap. I think now we're not going to have any questions about it.
No, yeah, very, very true. That I didn't even think about that in terms of Devin, but I was thinking in terms of Ryan and his marketability. Obviously, if he loses the fight, it's gonna hurt. How they're able to market him unless he puts on a great performance or it's a performance where it's like a really, really close fight. And I've always said this to people, like, it doesn't matter like if you lose a fight as a boxer, it matters how you lose the fight. If you lose it in a great performance, it's not going to take anything away from you. If anything, it's going to help you. People are going to want to see you fight again because you fought so great.
Very, very true. I'll go back to the fight that we're talking about before with Teo and Ortiz. If Ortiz looks at the tape and goes back and retools his thing, he's obviously got talent, very talented fighter, but he retools his game and comes back as a different fighter, then yes, you're right, that fight will help him. But he's got to go back and retool. I think that Ryan is in a different boat only because he's already got the following. One loss is not going to matter unless he gets destroyed by Devin Haney. One loss is not going to matter. He's got the following. He's his followers love him whether he looks good, looks bad, doesn't matter. I mean, they still followed him when he got beat by Davis. So I don't think a loss is going to hurt him as much as it will hurt Devin.
So you would think then Devin's going to try to box, try to establish his jab early and try to move around, try to avoid Ryan, right? You think Ryan's going to have to be aggressive, come forward, put punches together.
Ryan is going to have to think that this guy can't hurt me and I'm going to go at him and I'm going to go at him until I land the one that I want. If he doesn't, then Devin will just stay on the outside and box him. Devin is obviously the more talented fighter skill wise. At least to this point, we don't know the improvements that Derek will be able to make on Ryan for this fight, but he's had enough time to make some improvements. So if Devin is able to keep him on the outside and keep him, like I said, one step behind with his jab and with his movement, then I think he beats him. But Ryan will have to press. Ryan will have to be in his chest, and I'm not gonna say be dirty, but just be aggressive, very aggressive.
Yeah, it's all gonna come down to the power of Devin. And if Ryan feels like, hey, I can come forward and this is not going to bother me.
Can I take it? Can I take it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I take a shot? If I can take a shot, he's in trouble.
Unless he's landing clean and, an eye starts swelling up.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that he'll be able to land that. In order to do that, you have to land combinations, one or two or three shots that make that happen. If Ryan is pressing and Devin is fighting him, Devin, there's gonna be shots in between. Ryan is just as fast or faster than Devin, so yeah, and he's got more power. So between Devin shots, if he's able to land a couple, then we got the same problem going both ways. Maybe the eyes start busting up, and he starts getting hit a little too much, and changes his game plan. Then it's a different story in the fight.
Yeah, it's because it's gonna be a hard fight for both, because like I'm thinking in my mind, I'm trying to run okay, what would I do if I was Devin, or in that position? It's like, okay, you got to confuse the guy. He's going to come forward, so you're going to have to mix up your attack and go to the body to slow him down, because he's going to be really strong those first few rounds, and you're going to want to wear him down, confuse him, triple up your jab, go to the body, go to the top, and just lateral movement move. Make him use a lot more energy than he's used to. He's going to be winging him. You're going to want to make him miss. He gets too close, clinch him.
I don't think Devin's going to go to the body that much because he'll expose himself. If he throws a left hook to the body or a right hook to the body or right hand, straight hand to the straight right hand to the body, that's what we thought when we fought when Terry Norris fought John Mugabe. We worked on the fact that John liked to throw his right hand, straight right hand to the body to try to slow Terry down because Terry was a big mover. And what did we work? What did we work on? We worked on a counter hook. You know, as soon as John stretched his hand out, we were going to counter hook, and that's how we knocked him out. If Devin starts throwing to the body, he's exposing himself. He has to reach for Ryan, and Ryan's pretty lanky. Right? Ryan's got some pretty long arms, so if he reaches for him, then I think he's putting himself in a position where he's going to get caught. And all it takes is one when you're reaching out and you're exposed like that. So I think he boxes him more. I think he uses more of a Muhammad Ali kind of style where Muhammad Ali never went to the body. He always hit. You know, I think the last time he went to the body that we saw on tape was against Cleveland. A guy named Cleveland. What was his last name? Wow, I forget his name now. But anyway, Muhammad Ali never went to the body. So that's what I think Devin's going to have to do, in my opinion. Not keep your head shots, keep your shoulder shots, keep all the shots, and not extend yourself out.
Yeah, we'll do a further detailed breakdown, but yeah, it's interesting to get like your initial reaction for it because a lot of people do say that Ryan is a very live dog in the fight. He cracks Devin, seeing Devin was stunned when he fought JoJo for a brief moment, but even more stunned when he fought Linares. And these guys are at lighter weight classes. Ryan is a lot bigger puncher now, so yeah, it's gonna be an interesting fight. It's gonna be an interesting fight for sure.
And Linares hurt him because he's sharp, not because he's got the kind of power that Ryan has.
Yeah,
Ryan's a big boy, and now that they put him up to 140, he's got a lot more chance to build up a little bit and not be sacrificing losing the weight. So he's probably fighting at a normal weight for him right now. So if Linares could hurt him at 126 pounder that he was, he hurt him because he was sharp and hurt him because he had experience. It's not the same. It's not the same for Garcia. Garcia just has brute power.
Another fight.
The speed makes it power.
Yes, that's true. Look, speed is power. That's the Einstein equation. E equals MC squared. Pitbull Cruz against Rolly Abel.
Ooh, good fight.
Do you like it? Yeah, I love that fight.
Great fight.
Honestly, I feel that's the real main event of that pay-per-view is that fight. But tell me about it, man. What's your reaction?
That's a 50-50 fight.
50-50.
That's a 50-50 fight.
Yeah.
I think that a win is good for both guys. A win, Raleigh's been kind of on the sidelines, kind of just talking and not doing nothing. And I think that this fight overrides, especially if he stops him. Because Davis couldn't do it. So if he stops him, it's a big feather in his cap. The same thing for Cruz. So yeah, to me, it's a 50-50 fight. It's going to be an exciting match. Probably like you're right, probably more exciting than the other one.
Now, yeah, the fans they're going crazy for this one because it's Pitbull. They know Pitbull's going to just go forward, just throw punches at Rolly. The thing is with me that I'm concerned about is the size of Rolly and how that size is going to play a role in the fight, Abel.
We've had those matchups many times in the past. We had
Dwight Rolly's freaking huge, though.
He's we fight Dwight Muhammad Kawi fight George Foreman. You mean that wasn't a size difference? So
Pitbull's so small.
He's small, but he's a 35 pounder. He's not a 30 pounder. He's a 35 pounder, and Rolly's a 40 pounder. He's 5 pounds, maybe short in stature, but he's pretty wide, pretty. Even though he's short, he's 135 pound, 140 pounder. I just think Rolly. What makes it exciting for me is that Rolly doesn't pull back. He's a very emotional type of fighter. If he gets hit or something happens to him, he wants to attack. He wants to go. And the other guy is more consistent with his game, but if one guy opens up and the other guy can land the shots, and then it makes for a good fight. I don't think they have the power to knock each other out as I do Ryan against Devin. I don't think they have that kind of devastating power. So they're going to be hitting each other. It may end up being a decision or somebody gets so cut up or beat up that they stop it in the end of the fight. But it's an exciting fight for me.
If you had to pick, just based on the styles and based on the intangibles, who would you lean towards to?
I would say Raleigh.
Yeah, me too. Just because the size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say he's got the most he's got the most advantages in this fight.
Leonard feels that Rolly's going to knock out Pitbull, but there's a lot of people I've talked to. I've talked to Oscar, talked to other people, Bob Arum. They're all picking Pitbull. They say Pitbull's going to knock him out.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think that he possesses the power at that weight to be able to knock him out. And I think neither one of them does. And I think it's just a hard fought fight. Maybe 15-13, 16-4, 16-12 kind of fight. But it's going to be very exciting.
I could like Pitbull, like you mentioned, he's not a one punch guy. He throws a lot of punches. So maybe, over the course of 12 rounds, he can't. I don't know. I just feel the size of Rolly, like he's going to be outweighing Pitbull by like 20 pounds probably the night of the fight. The one thing that concerns me is Rolly sometimes stays there a little too long after he's throwing his punches with his hands down. And Cruz throws these looping shots that I could see if Rolly's moving back, here comes a looping Pitbull punch and it catches him clean.
Did I read that Rolly went to a different trainer now?
Yeah, he's with Salas now.
Okay, so that could make a difference one way or the other.
Can it in 8 weeks?
Yes, one way or the other. In other words, if you stop working on the things you were working on with before, or you start working on things new today, are you going to be able to assimilate those new teachings for this fight? So I think we talked about this before. A lot of times it takes 1 or 2 fights, maybe 2 or 3 fights, I should say, to get in accordance with what your new coach is teaching you. You have to assimilate what he's trying to teach you. And sometimes when you get in a fight, as I said, I think in the Munguia situation, if you really believe it and you're really a good listener, then maybe it'll be easy. But if it's not, then you're going to be second guessing yourself with some of the things that you want to try. I thought that the other coach was a good coach for him. He had the kind of style that coach was good for. Not all of us can teach both styles. There's aggressive styles and then there's boxer styles, and different coaches can teach different things. And so Rolly's an aggressive fighter. Salas is a Cuban coach that he's my very good friend and I love him, but he's a technician kind of coach. He's more of a technical coach. Will he be able to have Rolly follow his lead, follow what he's trying to teach him? Will Rolly be able to do that?
Yeah, I can't wait, but I'm also interested. Like, say if Pitbull does win, how he's going to fare against the other guys at 140 pounds. Just, I don't want to say it's not his best. Like, I feel like even at 135, he's undersized, like given, his stature.
Both of them are in the second tier of that division. They're not in the top tier of that division. They still have, and may never have it, a ways to go to get to the first tier in that division. There's too many good fighters, high echelon fighters that would beat them easy. I shouldn't say easy, but would beat them
convincingly.
That's
there you go. That's
not easy.
Better way of saying
it. Nothing is easy.
Yeah. In the main event of that PBC on Amazon Prime card in Las Vegas, that's going down on March 30th. Tim Tszyu taking on Keith Thurman, who's moving up to a new weight class, moving up to 154 pounds for the first time in his career. A lot of people have Tim Tszyu as the overwhelming favorite in this fight, even saying that, hey, Tim's on a tear. This is not a fair fight. Smaller Thurman coming up against this killer. Tim Tszyu is going to get the knockout. Keith Thurman, a very experienced guy, unified world champion at 147 pounds, was called one time for a reason because he had big power at 147. Are people just majorly overlooking Keith and his ability in this fight because just simply they haven't seen him fight in such a long time? He's been inactive, for such a long time.
No, I don't think they're overlooking him, but I do think that Tim Tszyu needs this fight to claim superiority here in the States. He needs this fight for people to see that he is for real. Keith hasn't fought in a while, And I think Keith went through a period where, as you said, one time Thurman, and then what he did is he became defensive, kind of like Floyd did when he moved up from 30 to 40 and 47. He wasn't the aggressive fighter that he was before. When Keith started to move up and face the high echelon of the division, he became more of a boxer. He became more of a tactician and technician inside the ring instead of the one-time guy. But he's a live underdog. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight for Tim. I think Keith has got a lot of experience, and at 154, maybe those 7 pounds are going to make a difference. Also, how he feels inside the ring, but he won't be able to. He won't be able to lay back on Tim because Tim's going to be aggressive with it.
That's the one thing people note is in Spanish, it's called si puede aguantar. It's like, can he handle it? Like, can he handle the punches? Can he handle the pressure? You know, people, I'm sure boxing fans will mention like, well, you know, we know Thurman go to the body, you know, it bothers him, you know, with Josecito Lopez, when he landed that hook, it got him. You have a bigger guy in Tim Tszyu now who's pressure punches, and he's a big puncher.
Yeah, there was another guy that hurt him to the body real bad. A Puerto Rican guy, Carlos. Gosh, what was his last name? Hurt him to the body, and it changed.
Yeah, that was in Florida. Was it? No, it wasn't Quintana, was it?
Yes, Quintana, I think it was.
Quintana,
Yes,
yeah.
it was Quintana. Yeah, it hurt him the body early in the fight, and it changed the how the fight was fought from that point on. I think Quintana was a southpaw too, but Tszyu is a bigger guy. Keith hasn't fought in a while. Very skilled, but can Keith go back to that one-time Thurman that it was and be aggressive and make Tszyu pay for the mistakes that he makes? Because Zyu's going to make mistakes. He's not as I'm not gonna say talented, but he's not the technician that Keith once was. I don't know if he can recall that back. So he's going to make mistakes, and if Keith can capitalize on this, then it'd be an interesting fight. I still see Tim Tszyu winning the fight. I don't see him stopping him like in a dramatic fashion. If he stops him, it'll be because it just wore him out.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight for Keith to have taken, honestly. You know, taking on a guy that's had 3 fights last year in 2023 when he hasn't had a fight since the Pacquiao fight. I would imagine like, yo, let me get a fight in first, you know, to test how I am at this weight. And then, you know, it's not a title fight. The WBO didn't approve it to be a title fight because Keith has never fought at 154 pounds. But yeah, it just, when it was announced, it just kind of scratched my head, and it's like, man, like, why? Like, why take that fight?
Lots of people thinking that they're throwing them to the dogs, but I don't think so. I think that Keith has got enough experience, enough talent to take on a fight like that. Again, he may not win it, and you're right. He could have taken something else to prepare for an opportunity like this. But it's good for Tszyu because we're going to see how good he really is against a named fighter.
Yeah, and I feel though too, maybe the options were limited for PBC at this point. You know, you have Canelo that only fights May, September. Gervonta Davis is on house arrest. They can't do anything with him. Errol Spence just got the cataract surgery. He's out for a little bit. So, you know, who do you put? Who do you put to headline this pay-per-view card that they have to go? They had to go and get started. Keith, you know, is going to sell. He's been on pay-per-view before. This dude can sell fights like no other person. He's entertaining. He's going to get people's attention, and he has a very fan-friendly style. Tim doesn't say much, but how he is in the ring is very fan-friendly. So it's like you can't go wrong. Like the fight's going to be good.
No, almost definitely. It's just which Keith shows up. If it's the Keith that's got 2 years of rust on him and is still in that defensive mode that he's not aggressive, then it won't be so good for him because Tszyu is going to be on him. But if he shows up to try to win, I think we have an interesting fight. We have an interesting fight where a guy can maybe get exposed. Keith is not going to get exposed because he's already been to the top of the mountain, and we've seen him at 147 in very, very good fights, and we have not seen Tszyu in those kind of fights yet. This would be one of them.
Yeah, no, Tszyu has wins over, let's see, Mendoza, Tony Harrison, and Ocampo. Tony Harrison being, the most experienced, but a lot of people say
Probably,
he's a
yes.
little long in the tooth there.
Right.
None as versatile as a Keith Thurman, or as mobile, or as quick.
And wasn't a world champion. You talk about a world champion,
Well,
ex-world champion.
Tony was a world
It's
champion.
I think it's a little different style for Zoo with Keith. Tony was more of a boxer, more of a and Keith. If he goes back to the Keith that we saw be so dominant, I don't know why it changed. Be so dominant, it may be interesting.
If that Keith shows up, or the Keith that we saw in the Pacquiao fight, because that was a very close fight towards the end of the fight. Does he beat him?
It's a close fight.
It's a close fight.
Still
doesn't convince you.
Youth maybe wins the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a close fight. But it's good for Keith though. It puts him in the mix. Puts him right back in the mix. Unless he gets knocked out, he's in the mix. If he gives Tim Tszyu a run for his money, then either you're going to hear both sides. We're going to criticize Tim because I knew he wasn't that good, or you're going to say if he beats Keith, then we're going to say, well, Keith was old, So it's good fight for both guys to find out where they're at.
Yeah. Overall, I feel that card, even though it doesn't have like one standout superstar attached to it, this PBC on Amazon Prime pay-per-view on the 30th of March in Vegas, I think overall, like the value of it is really good. Like you have some really good fights on there, the main and the co-main, and then they're going to stack the fight at, Lara and Zarafa, that one, Laura's been more willing to engage the older he's gotten, and has become a little bit more exciting, but you never know with him.
Yeah. It's reminiscent of the old Don King days, man. Don King used to put on 4 or 5 title fights on a show, and one of them may not even be on TV, on the pay-per-view. So I'm happy to see that come back. I hope that they continue that trend. We shouldn't have one fight and then 5 throwaways. I mean, that's not fun for the fans. But
the reason why.
Well, it doesn't matter the reason why. Listen,
costs too much.
Then the fighters are going to have to understand that. And somebody's going to have to understand it, because if you don't buy it, if you only putting one on, and you're give us 3 throwaways, then maybe the fans are not going to tune in. Maybe that's why boxing is not as important to the fans now as it used to be. But because we're not getting the fights or the fans are not getting the fights that excite them. Maybe it's a guy, I don't want to see the main event, but I want to see the second fight. I see the semi-main event is better for me to watch. And so if you have that, maybe we'll get more fans. Maybe instead of the 300 buys, we get the 600 buys or 1 million buys. I think it's important to give the fans a good product.
No, I'm in total agreement with you. It's just the boxing economics makes that a majority of the time not possible, given the huge amount of purses these guys demand, which it's such a weird thing. It's not a weird thing. Like weird thing like me, because it's like I'm for them getting as much money as humanly possible. But when it's like it goes back to the fans, yeah, we don't see these pay-per-views stacked because of that reason. But it's a very good reason on the fighter's end. Like that could be at any time their last fight they ever fight.
Yeah, we talked about this in the last show.
Yep.
Maybe that's why things are going to Saudi.
Well, yeah, well, when you have a government paying for everything,
right,
you can put on the fights.
Correct. So they're able to do that kind of show. They're going to have the big fights. No, I don't want to see them go over there. I want to see them here in the States, where we can see them at prime time. But economics, as you say, maybe that's what's keeping it from happening.
Yeah, I just worry that all these fights going to Saudi. Yes, we are like, I see it like in 2 ways. One, like I feel like because they're making the fights that we want to see happening, it's improving the sport. It's like, oh wow, these fights are happening. Me as a boxing fan, yeah, I'm gonna want to see it. But is the after effect of it that we don't see is because these fights are not happening in the US anymore. They're happening over there, that in fact it's taken away from the market that is boxing's biggest market, which is the United States. Remains to be seen. I don't know.
It has its pluses and its minuses.
It does.
But do we learn? Do the people in charge here or networks or promoters learn how to deal with it, how to change it, how to make it more attractive? So they're going to have to make some changes, or else we are going to be in that position where we're losing all the attractive fights over there.
Yeah, I just imagine like if they were to take the NFL over to Europe and a majority of the games are now played in Europe, what would happen to the NFL fan base here in America? Like, would it affect it? You would think, yeah, there would be a significant effect from it because it's not here anymore. Like you want to attend the games, you want to engage with the teams. Like it makes it more difficult to follow. Yeah, I don't know. It's these are some of the things that I wondered. Like, what's the potential con of all this being moved over to Saudi?
The question should be, what's the fix?
Well, okay, we know the fix, but the thing is, it's hard to compete as a private business against a government. Like you can't compete with the government. You can't. There's no way. Like I feel the only or one of the only options is Vegas can compete, but it has to be the right fight. They're not going to do it for Beterbiev versus Bivol. They'll do it for Ryan versus Tank, Canelo versus Crawford, for those types of fights, but they won't do it for a Beterbiev versus Bivol fight, which is a freaking great fight. Like, I'm stoked that we're getting it, and we wouldn't be getting it without the Saudi involvement, which is great for the sport. We need undisputed fights, but it's difficult. You as a private business, you can't compete with the government.
Well, we're going to see we're going to see this year what impact it has on the sport here in the States. We're going to see this year because there's going to be major fights over there, and will the fighters not want to fight here in the States because they're just not getting enough money and not fight, or stay busy,
or will they know I can get 5 times that amount if I go over there? Why am I fighting here?
But there's only so many fights over there.
Yeah.
There's only so many opportunities over there. There's only so many cards. You're not going to have a card every week over there for to satisfy all the fighters, all the champions that we have here. It's impossible. So at what point do you realize that you may not be the one in line to go over there and fight a fight? So
it
we
remains
have
to be
adjust
seen.
our economics.
Well, yeah, people have been calling for that for the longest time. Yeah. But it is what it is. Like all this is the sum of its parts. And if you really look at it, like you go way back, like pay-per-views is not a new thing. It started in the 90s, but even before that, there was closed circuit pay-per-view, which is kind of or closed circuit viewing, which is kind of like a precursor to pay-per-view. And even then you could say like, oh, that's where the problem started, is there, these exorbitant prices to watch, these fights on closed circuit.
Yeah, I saw Tommy Hearns fight with Pepino Cuevas at the sports arena here in Los Angeles on closed circuit. But listen, it's why did HBO and why did Showtime get out of the boxing business? It was not that lucrative. They weren't making any money. I mean, I have no clue. I'm not in that position to know. But now that we have this situation, we have to find a way to make it work. HBO and Showtime worked for a long, long time. Now we have to find a way to make this work. I don't know the answer, obviously, but there is an answer and there is a way to make it work just like they did before. Eventually, they will become the norm.
The only way that it works, I feel, that could viably work and solve the mess, and I even told this to Teddy, and it's kind of around like his thought process is, you got to get the federal government involved for there to be a national commission where they say you must fight this person or this person or you lose your ranking. Somehow, some way, like there has to be an overseeing organization that makes these fights happen and that they happen.
But the federal government can't get this shit together about our country. How are they going to get together about boxing?
Exactly. And that's the other thing on that argument. Is like, yeah, like the government can't even like fix the roads down my street. You think they're gonna fix boxing? It's already like messed up as it is.
Right. They can't get together on anything. They're so divided right now. How can they get together on who's got to fight who and where they got to fight them, how much money they're going to be involved? You know, they can't even get their act together on what they're supposed to be doing for us, much less a sport.
Yeah, no, a multi-billionaire or a group has to come in and just buy everyone and just like, hey, look, I control everyone now. You guys got to fight.
You mean just like the UFC is with
No, no,
Dana?
there's other orgs. There's other orgs, but the
No, but I
UFC.
mean in that
Yes, yes,
manner, in that
yes,
manner. Hmm,
yes. In that
interesting.
manner, yes. Even though the UFC has the luxury that they were the first, and usually if you're the first to market, 9 times out of 10, you have a significant advantage in that market. And yeah, they were the first to come up with that sport. But changing subjects, Abel, I wanted to touch on this with you because he fought a few weeks back, but your impressions on Jaime Munguia in his win over John Ryder. He knocked down John Ryder multiple times en route to a corner stoppage there in Arizona. I was there ringside. I have my impressions, but I'm just curious because you being a esteemed trainer and so much experience that you have, what did you see there in Munguia improvement wise that really stuck out to you?
I think that the wild card team and Freddie Roach did a fantastic job of preparing him. I think that we talked about this prior, and I said to you that if Munguia listens and can adapt to what Freddie's trying to teach him, he's got the talent. He's got a lot of talent that's untapped. It's a matter of following somebody's lead that you believe in, and I think that he did exactly that. I didn't think it was going to take him just one fight. I thought it was going to be 2 or 3 fights because it always takes 2 or 3 fights for a guy to get in tune with his coach. But I thought that he looked 100% better than he looked in the fight previous, and he followed instructions. Man, he did everything. He was a Freddie fighter because he saw a lot of the things that Freddie's aggressiveness and punch combinations that you've seen in the past from some of his fighters. So I think that he listened and he did very well. I thought he looked fantastic.
Yeah, a few interesting things. I find it interesting because you mentioned it earlier here on our program here that offense is defense. And that's one thing that Freddie brought up in the post fight. He said, hey, you guys rag on my guy that he has no defense, but hey, if you have great offense, that becomes your defense. And my guy has great offense.
Very true. You don't win fights with defense. You win fights with offense. Uh, this is the kind of sport, or this is the sport where you're going to get hit. Just make sure that you hit them harder and you hit them more often.
Yeah, you hit him
You're
more. You
going
got to
to
hit him
get
more.
hit. Yeah, you're going to get hit. I mean, everybody in this sport gets hit. If you look at the punch stat, the other guy lands shots too. It's just a matter of landing your shots with more effectiveness, one, and two, more often. And I think that's what Freddie brings. And because the kid has talent, it's just a matter of bringing it out and giving him that confidence to throw those combinations where he's going to land those shots. Uh, he he looked sure of himself. He looked strong. He looked aggressive. He looked very, very confident for me. And he followed instructions. I think that's a Freddie fighter.
I was impressed by the Munguia would always throw, and he'd always throw combinations, but he'd get a little crazy with the combinations. He wouldn't be as tight of a guard. He'd be a little reckless with his combinations. In this fight, I did see a noticeable change of that where he was throwing the combinations, but he was more disciplined at throwing them. And he also went to the body a lot more, something he didn't go to before, throwing that long right hand to the body and just being very compact when throwing those combinations. PR release after came out saying, hey, statement made. He stopped this guy quicker than Canelo did. This guy, John Ryder, is durable. Yes, he was knocked down by Canelo twice, but he went the distance with Canelo. This guy, Munguia, stopped Canelo. Is there a statement there to be said about Munguia doing that against John Ryder when Canelo couldn't?
No, I think I think we talked about this before. Canelo having the fight in his hometown had a lot of situations where maybe he wasn't at the gym, maybe he wasn't running, maybe all the commitments that you have when you're the one setting up the show, you're the one doing everything. Yes, it's his people, but it's still him in the middle of it. It's going to different appointments, going to different press conferences, going to different areas where it takes away from your focus on what you're doing. I don't think Munguia had those issues. Munguia went to the fight on the week of the fight and got in the ring and did what he had to do. Um, so no, I don't think you could compare him that way. I wouldn't compare it that way. But you have to look at Munguia, how long he is, how long arms, tall, um, disciplined in what he was doing in this particular fight. Maybe he wasn't disciplined against Derevchenko, but he was disciplined in this particular fight. And Freddie, when he works with you, Freddie doesn't throw one punch at a time. Freddie throws 4 or 5, 6 punches at a time, and some of them are gonna, and most of them are gonna land. So if he got him used to doing that instead of trying to knock somebody out with one shot, then this kid's gonna progress even faster than people thought. I think he's um, 2 fights away from Canelo. I don't think he's. I'd like to see Freddie have him for 2 more fights before we fight Canelo.
Yeah, me too. It's just because of what he did. Now, like the spotlight's on him, and I feel like there's pressure now. Like, yo, look what he did against Ryder. Like, no, put him in there with Canelo. Like, he looked great. Like, yeah, it's time for him to face Canelo. Given he does have what 40 something fights, he's in a position where like I don't think he has the luxury to have just 2 gimme fights to improve under Freddie.
Yeah, well, lucky for him, Canelo's got other commitments
Yeah.
before him, I think. Okay, lucky for him. But I think that his liabilities will be improved with 2 more fights with Freddie. He's got liability still. He's not the perfect fighter, but I think that working with Freddie, but not only working with Freddie, I think the wild card having 4 or 5 fighters in his weight division are giving him looks that he's never seen before. You know, they're giving him looks at fighters that are sparring every day that he doesn't have to bring into camp to have him spar with him. He's having those guys right there ready, and everybody's benefiting. So I think that was a major step for him, and I've said it in the past that a good move for him to go to Freddie's. But the fact that he's got all that sparring and he's got the brain and the experience of Freddie, I think is gonna show even more in the future.
Yeah, I'd like to see him match up next, not with Canelo, and you alluded to it. Canelo heavily rumored to face Jermall Charlo coming up on May 4th, though. He hasn't announced it yet, but I would love to see Jaime Munguia and Edgar Berlanga. That would be a fight of tremendous violence and one in which either or guy could put each other out.
Okay. The difference to me is Berlanga never got the Freddie. There's a lot of other Freddies out there. I mean, there's not just Freddie's not the only one, but there's a lot of other Freddies. But Berlanga never got with a Freddie. He was knocking everybody out. So it's like Deontay Wilder having a great right hand, but you don't develop the rest of it. Berlanga just didn't develop the complete tools that he needs to compete with the guys at that level. Munguia is starting to develop those tools. So by being there, I think is an advantage, and Berlanga doesn't have that advantage. Who's Berlanga with?
Man, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, he's not with anybody that we know that's improving him. He's not with a Derek. He's not with a Ronnie Shields. He's not
Sosa. But let's see what his box rec says here. I don't think even box rec has that Edgar Berlanga.
And I don't mean to diminish the coach that he may be working with, but what I mean is that the experience and the knowledge that he's going to get from a seasoned, experienced coach is needed as you start stepping up the ladder.
Mark Farrat.
Who has Mark Farrat developed? Who has Mark Farrat been in? Again, it's not to diminish because maybe he's the one that's going to be able to get Berlanga to that level. Maybe he's the one that be able to teach him more than we was taught before. That you need to compete at the higher level. But we've never heard of anybody that Mark Farrat had that was an elite fighter. So the difference would be again that Munguia made the change. Munguia made the change, and it could have been if he didn't make the change, we could have been talking about Munguia being with Mark Farrat too, or a coach on that level. In any sport, you always see the premier coaches in the Super Bowl and the NBA Finals, and it's because they know how to do it.
At this point, Abel, you mentioned that you feel he's maybe 2 fights away from being ready for Canelo. Those 2 fights, say, it's Berlanga and someone else. Maybe it's geez, if he encounters Benavidez, that's another, like, oh my God, what's going to happen there? Um, you would
He's not
think
ready
you would.
for Benavidez either.
What was that?
He's not ready for Benavidez
Yeah, I
either.
was gonna say, yeah, he wouldn't be favored in that fight against Benavidez. It's like, who can you give Munguia to? There's that Mbili guy that fought on the undercard of Beterbiev's fight against Callum Smith. Those are your 2 fights, and then goes into a Canelo fight. Is he the guy to beat Canelo at this point, or in 2 fights?
I don't see it yet. I see the guy to beat Canelo right now is Benavidez, if he's going to beat him. Munguia has, again, I need two more fights for him to get all of, or a lot more of Freddie's teachings. But at this point, after this fight, no, I don't think he's the guy that beats Canelo. Benavidez is closer to beating Canelo than he is. But in 2 fights, we'll talk again, because I think that there will be a major improvement in him.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think they will, and it's just, I wish this would have happened earlier for
Yeah.
Munguia, because, like I said, like, he's at a point where, like, he doesn't have the time, the luxury to have these build me up fights. Like, he already had 40 something of them. Like, now it's the time. Like, they're gonna put him in these fights.
But you know what I'm going to say? I've talked a lot before about uh, the state. You've asked me questions about the state of boxing.
Yeah.
I don't like what managers and promoters are doing with young fighters today. They're rushing them into a title. I think that the best thing for Munguia that he's done is that he's had so many fights. He's had a chance to develop his skills. That was the way it was done in the past. Today, the last 20, 25 years, it's like we're rushing into a title and you don't get to go back. Teofimo Lopez is a prime example for me. He was rushed into a title so soon that he really doesn't have the time to develop what skills he could have developed as a pro. They just say Terence Crawford, perfect for Terence Crawford. He was out in the middle of nowhere and he got the fights. Yes, it was his hometown, but he got the kind of fights that he needed to develop to become the great fighter that he is. For Munguia, the fact that he has 40 fights or whatever, 41 fights, I think that's a plus that very few fighters have, that very few fighters are given the opportunity to have. So it's perfect.
Yeah, the thing is the reason why they're rushed is, when are they gonna get that payday again? Like, it's toil and obscurity and don't make anything and hope you get that payday, which it may happen. And there's all these other factors that are going against you. Or, hey, you go and you take that opportunity, you win, there you go. Like, you make all this money, you're in that elevated place, and that's where you're supposed to be.
We go back to the economics.
Yep. It's money.
And
Money, money,
unfortunately,
money, money, money.
our sport is suffering. It's suffering because we're not getting the great champions. We're only getting one or two. We're only getting generational champions. In other words, they come in a generation. Crawford and say Benavidez and say Canelo. Okay, now who's going to be the next guys to step up? Are we going to wait another 10 years for somebody to step up like that? Or are we going to be able to develop those fighters along the way so that we have more stars like we used to in the past?
Well, usually, yeah, when Floyd left, Canelo took up that spot. It's always been, there's always a guy right behind there taking up the spot. Like, it goes all the way back to in the history of the sport. But yeah, I was,
remember.
yeah.
I remember back. Not even back to 20 years, 25 years, where Mexico had 6 or 7 world champions, but they weren't fighting a championship fight at 20 fights or at 15 fights. They were fighting title fights at 30 fights, or 27, 28 fights, where they had a little development. Here in the States, we want to push them so fast that they never get that development. And we don't have the consistency. We have a guy that wins a title today and loses it in the first defense. Why? Because he didn't have the ability and the talent to be able to compete with a particular style that moved up to number one. We don't give them that chance. It's not their fault, and it is their fault for allowing that to happen to them, because they are subcontract. I mean, they are independent contractors. Because they are independent, they have a chance to say no. I've always wanted for my fighters to have 4, 4 rounders, 4 6 rounders, 4 8 rounders, 4 10 rounders. Why? Because it allows me to develop them. And what happens when you get to say 10 fights and you're fighting a 10 rounder, you can't go back to a 6. You got to continue fighting the guys in the 10 rounds. And commissions are more difficult today because they want equal matches. They don't want blowouts. So you're forced. Oh, you already fought a 10 rounder. You already have a junior title. You can't go back to fighting I'm not gonna say the easy fights, but the fights that develop your talent. Against those veterans that may not beat you, but they're gonna give you a heck of a fight that's gonna allow you to learn your craft.
Oh, finally, Abel, and great points, by the way, in terms of that. Are you excited for Canelo versus Jermall Charlo if that is the fight announced on May 4th?
For a lot of different reasons, yes.
Yeah.
One of the reasons being, can he dominate the bigger Charlo as he did the smaller Charlo weight wise? And Charlo looked good against Benavidez, man. Benavidez gave him the kind of fight that Charlo needed to get some of that rust off and polish a little bit. So if he's able to do a little more than his younger or his smaller brother did, we may have an interesting fight. I'm not completely dismissing Jermall. I think that he's as live, even more live, I think, than Jermall was, because he's going to be closer to weight, closer to strength, closer to Canelo than Jermall was.
My whole thinking is this. Let me put it this way: if you were have a deck of cards, okay, and it's like, here are the major players on this deck, and you pull out a card, it's Charlo. You put out a card, it's Crawford. You put out a card, it's Benavidez, and you think, okay, out of those 3 choices, which is the one me as a fan wants to go to? Charlo is the last one of those choices. I'm not saying it's not going to be a good fight. I think it is going to be a good fight. And Charlo is going to do a lot better than Jermall. And it'll be an exciting fight. But it's like, come on. Like, the fans, like, I have a good sense of the pulse of this sport, okay? The fans want to see Benavidez. That's the fight for Canelo. And if not, Crawford, because of just how damn skilled Crawford is. People feel that he can bridge that gap and potentially give Canelo a great fight, if not beat him, which a lot of insiders feel that Crawford can't beat Canelo. But it's like, you got to give David's been the mandatory for how many, like, what, like, you got to give this kid the chance. You got to give he's earned, that's the thing. He's earned it. David has earned the fight, but yes, Canelo's the boss. He can do whatever the hell he wants, but that I feel like the reaction towards this is not, they feel it's a terrible fight or not a competitive fight. It's because you have a guy in David Benavidez for the last 2 years that has earned his right to be able to face Canelo through interim fights and defenses and yada, yada, yada.
I'll give you some points.
Yeah.
First,
you're gonna tear them all down?
The first thing you said that is so true is the fans. Who cares?
Who cares? Oh, okay, no. They're the ones paying.
Well, listen. Oh, no, they're not. Listen.
They're not?
Listen. The second, no, they're not. Not the fans that are complaining.
Okay.
They're not the ones paying. Okay. Second point. Will he get more money to fight Benavidez? Canelo. Will he get more money to fight Crawford? Will he get more money to fight Charlo? It's gonna be the same. Very little difference. When you get to those amounts, it doesn't matter. 10 million doesn't matter. Okay, because the risk doesn't matter. It's not as important. And when you say he's the boss, you're absolutely right. But no, they haven't earned the right to fight him yet. They haven't fought at that weight yet, except for Benavidez. But
I was going to say Benavidez.
One fight.
Yeah.
Benavidez had one fight.
But he's been the mandatory for 2 years now, 2.5 years plus.
Listen,
that's earning it.
If you know boxing and if you've been around boxing long enough, you can make the mandatory anybody you want. Am I wrong?
No.
You can petition, you can call, you can bug an organization and fight. You've seen guys that fight nobodies and become the #1 contender. So that really doesn't matter. I think you have to. I think it's got to be based on merit, and I think David is probably the closest to merit that fight. but one fight is not going to do it. Canelo continues to fight, and look at the resume. I look at the resume of Canelo, and look at the resume of David, and look what they've done to those guys in their resume. Look at the resume of Crawford, as you and people keep saying that you should fight him. He has never fought anybody at that level.
Wait. Oh, weight-wise, no, but level,
no, he's
skill-wise,
never. Yeah,
Canelo.
yeah, but he's no. Listen, why don't we put a Nui in there with him?
No. Hey,
oh no, okay, well it's the same thing. He has never fought at that level where you can, if he's able to have a fight at 60, let's just say. What I would have liked to have seen, let me see.
Crawford.
What I would like to have seen is Crawford fight Charlo.
Yeah.
The bigger Charlo that Canelo's fighting, okay? And take him away from Canelo.
Yeah.
He beats that Charlo, okay. Now we're talking, because now we're closer. I think we're closer to that merit-based right. Oh, and there's no such thing as a right. He has the right to fight. You know who has the right to call the shots? Canelo, because he's already done it. So listen, I think we beat him twice. I think that we got robbed. Okay, but the fact is that he's got a win on his record. He's got a draw on his record against Golovkin. He's got 2 wins on his record against Golovkin. And the fights that he fought after, look at the record. Look at what he's done compared to the other guys.
But Abel, you guys were making the same argument that David is making when you guys were campaigning to get that first fight. Gennadi's the mandatory. He's knocked out all these guys.
And we had 20 knockouts in a row against world champions. Who is David fought, knocked out world champion? Okay, so there's a difference on how David did. There's a difference on how David did.
Every person that Golovkin beat was a world champion. He was the world champion. He was knocking people out.
Okay, but how many world champions did he stop? How many #1 contenders did he stop? And he stopped them in a dramatic fashion. What did he do to David Lemieux, who everybody thought was David Lemieux's bigger at that time than anybody David's fought? Okay, so we had a right to do that.
But Benavidez has been on a tear, though, no?
Oh yeah, of course. So
stopped Andrade.
Yeah. Andrade, who hadn't fought in how long, and was a 60-pounder.
Hey, he's still skilled though, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So is Inui. I'm saying, I know. Yeah, I think that. Listen, I think that David fought a great fight in his last fight, but I've been saying it all along. He's got to earn the right. Quit talking so much and go out and fight somebody instead of.
But he has though. He has been like he's been fighting the guys that
why isn't he fighting
the WBC has been putting in front of him to get that title shot? Like, what more can you ask from him?
What more can you ask is you have to stand in line for the guy that's running the show.
But he has been in line. That's the thing. He's been making his way to the front of the line, knocking off.
When Floyd got to 47, did he fight all the guys? No, he didn't fight all the guys that he was bringing up from 130. He never fought anybody like that people were forcing him to fight. Nobody. You know, I had a sign in my gym that said, "Everybody's got something to say about lives they've never lived." Okay, Canelo's got a right. He's the only one that's got a right to call his own shots. Why? Because nobody that we're talking has ever done what he's done to this point. David hasn't. David has got one good win that we can say was, wow, that's who?
Plant and Andrade.
What did he do to Plant?
Good wins.
What did he do to Plant? What did he do to Plant?
He was pretty dominant in that one against Plant.
Okay, he decision Plant. Was Canelo dominant from the 6th round on? From the 5th round on?
Yeah, no, like Canelo knocked him out. But you can make the argument,
baby against a man. No, but he didn't knock him out.
No,
Canelo not that he knocked him out, but not that he knocked him out. That's not the point. It's how he beat him. He beat him like a drum from the beginning. You know, so that's how you have to. I think, in my opinion, anyway, that's how you have to merit them. Put them on a merit basis. You know, is he ready for Canelo? Yes, he's ready for Canelo. He's been ready for Canelo for a long time, but has he earned it? I don't think so. Of course, neither has Charlo, of course, and neither has Crawford. Because
I would say out of anybody, like Crawford, you can make an argument that he has
weight wise, he's never beaten anybody at that weight.
Okay, who he is, the stature, the accomplishments he's had in boxing, I would say, Crawford can demand a fight like that.
And Nui has 2. Gervonta Davis has 2. Devin Haney has 2. Teofimo has also. You know, you can't base it on that because you're talking about different weight divisions. It's like saying Canelo's earned the right to fight Tyson Fury. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But if he wanted to, we could make that happen.
Well, it's the same thing as Crawford fighting Canelo, because if Canelo fought. I'll give you an example. When Roy Jones moved up in weight and he started fighting all these guys, and he finally fought as a heavyweight, Okay, he earned the right to fight as a heavyweight. Terrence Crawford hasn't earned the right to fight as a heavyweight, as a super middleweight. I'm sorry. So that's how I look at it. If he was to fight, to me, the perfect fight for Charlo, and I don't know if we talked about this before, the perfect fight for Crawford should have been Charlo.
Yeah.
The perfect fight for Benavidez should have been Charlo. Eliminate the opportunities that Canelo has out there in front of him. Eliminate those. And if you eliminate those, then he's got no choice but to fight you. Who else is he going to fight for that kind of money? So the guys that are in line should be eliminated by the guys that are in line.
But it's tough though, too, you know, like you're saying he should have done that, Benavidez, but on the flip side, if you're on that other side, you're like, well, why am I going to fight this Benavidez guy when I have a high chance that Canelo wants to pick me and I make the biggest payday of my career, you know?
Do you think that Crawford and Charlo would have been a fight that could be made?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think
Okay,
so.
so why wasn't that made first before Canelo got him?
Well, Canelo hasn't announced anything yet, but you know, I would imagine like the reason why is because both know that they can make more money with Canelo.
Sure, but they're waiting in line. I mean, they're both long in the tooth, so they're waiting in line until when? Maybe Canelo never fights him. Okay, so they have a chance to make a decent payday. I think the Crawford Charlo does very well. But then it's good for both guys, because if both guys will put themselves in line ahead of Benavidez for Canelo, in my opinion.
Oh man, I hope that it's just completely opposite of what we're saying, and Canelo goes, "I'm gonna fight Crawford and then Benavidez," you know, so that sets up Benavidez and Charlo on you know some other date, and it all leads to this big super showdown in September. That'd be great.
Yeah. Good for the fans. Good for the fans. Not good for Canelo.
Not good for Canelo. Why not? He's making a ton of money that way.
He beats a Crawford. You and I will be talking. And says, "You see all the fans that are talking. He beat a little guy, and he looked bad doing it."
Do you think really that would I don't know.
Absolutely.
I see Crawford
Absolutely.
is so skilled, and like at the end of the day, like my thing would be say that does happen. Say that hypothetical alternate parallel universe, they do fight, and Canelo, because he's big, you know, ends up getting a majority decision win, and people are gonna look at it and say like, hey, it's because he's so much bigger. My response wouldn't be like, well, he's a little guy, he's a little guy. It's like at the end of the day, like Terrence is the one asking for it. He asked for it. He wanted the fight. So like, what more do you want? Like, you being in a competitor position, be like, yo, this guy called me out, like, and came up. Like, what do you expect? You know?
Yeah, fans are fickle. Fans are
that's true.
Fans are gonna accuse him of crater robbing, accuse him of taking the easy fight, accuse him, okay, he made $50 million, and they're gonna accuse him of just going for the money. Why didn't you? They'll say, fight Benavidez. You should have fought Benavidez instead of Crawford, but everybody's clamoring for Crawford. He fights Benavidez, says you should have fought Crawford because Crawford is a better fighter than Benavidez. You know, so you're never going to satisfy the fans. But remember, a while back, when he was going to fight, who the heck was he going to fight at 100? When he was at 160, if he didn't choose this guy, he was ducking that guy. If he didn't choose that guy, he was ducking the other guy. So you're never going to win. So the bottom line is, like I said a little while ago, is who's got a right to decide is Canelo. He's got a right to decide because he's got the resume to decide. And everybody's after him for economics. That's all it is. And I understand that. Yeah, I understand that. Because when we had when Gennady was in his heyday, everybody that fought him made a lot of money. So that's what it's about. I mean, that's what it's all about. But when you say the fans are going to be criticizing him after beating Crawford. It's a no-win situation for him, other than he's going to bank. He's going to put money in the bank, but it's a no-win situation for him.
Oh, isn't that the biggest win right there? Is the amount of O's you got in your bank account?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But if he can,
there you go.
If he can beat somebody else like a Charlo with the same kind of money going in his bank, and he's not going to get criticized, and if he gets criticized, it wasn't somebody that he didn't get that criticized when he beat the other Charlo, when he beat Jermall.
No,
but
he
if
didn't.
but if he fights Crawford and he beats Crawford,
you know, that's an interesting. Well, yeah, one more weight class, true, but more skilled opponent. But no, yeah, no, you're right. I wonder,
Is he a more
how that
skilled
would be.
opponent? Is he a more
Crawford, then
skilled
Charlo, then
opponent?
Jermell.
Okay, then why doesn't he fight Jamal? If he's that much more skilled, why doesn't he fight Jamal? And he'll beat Jamal easy because
Mm.
Jamal and Jamal are comparable. I mean,
Mm.
they're very good fighters, they're very good champions, but they're comparable in abilities. So if Crawford moves up and beats Jamal, which is what, 13 pounds? Yeah, if he beats Jamal at 160, then okay, then yeah, he's credible enough to fight Canelo. That's my opinion, of course.
Yeah, no, of course. But if you
Uh,
were to give Jermall the choice, hey, there's this fight with Crawford or this fight with Canelo, he's gonna go Canelo 10 times out of 10.
of course, it's more
Yeah,
money. It's
more money.
economics.
Yep,
It's
yep, more money. So
yeah.
that like that scenario can't happen. It'd
So
be
now,
nice.
what do you think? Does he think he can beat Crawford?
Who?
Do you think
Canelo?
Jamal?
I'm sure if you ask any of these fighters, Abel,
Okay,
they all think they
so
can win.
Jamal beats Crawford. It's a bigger payday against
It
Canelo.
is. It is. It is. Yeah, it is. But
It's the same thing. The same thing
if you
for
were to give them
Crawford.
if you were to give them the choice though, either or, they're always going to
Yeah,
go with
but
Canelo.
if they don't have that opportunity, if they don't have that opportunity in front of them in the near future,
Yes.
if
But it
if
looks like they
Crawford,
could have that opportunity for them in
if
the near future.
yeah,
Yeah.
Charlo, yes. If Crawford beats Charlo, isn't it a bigger payday for Crawford against Canelo? I
Oh,
think
of
so.
course, definitely. Yeah.
Of course, right.
But
So that's what I'm talking about, eliminating each
Ring,
other and
yeah,
hopefully
Ring Magazine's reported that it's done. The Canelo
for
versus
Jamal.
Charlo, but they're the only ones that come out with it. I haven't seen any other confirmation, which leaves Crawford with an opponent still, and
Yeah,
Benavidez
I
as well.
think you and I talked about when he beat the younger Jamal or the smaller Jamal, or the smaller Charlo, I should say. You and I talked about who would be next, and if you go back and listen to that, I think
Yeah,
I
you said
said
Charlo.
Jamal was going to be the next one.
Yeah, and
That's
then you said
natural
Benavidez.
progression for me.
Then
Yeah,
you said
natural
Benavidez
progression
at
for
the
me.
end. Yeah, but now with Munguia, who knows? Because that's turning out to be a big fight too for him.
Yeah, well, I see Jermall in May. I see Benavidez in
September
September, and I see Munguia May whatever,
of
May of the next year, 25, 25.
2025.
Yeah,
Man, we're in 2024 already. Wow, that's crazy.
I know you're getting old, man.
Yeah, look at all these canas that are all over my head. These gray hairs. But as always, Abel, great catching up with you. Really appreciate the time with you. As always, thank you so much. For you guys that are listening, make sure to follow us at Fight Up TV and subscribe to the channel. For myself and Abel Sanchez, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to us over here on Fight Up TV.